Part 1. Karma. My son's ex-girlfriend exploited his pain to get scholarships and make money. 4 months ago, I walked away from a conversation I'll never forget. My son's ex-girlfriend had just shrugged at a recording of herself saying I loved breaking him, and then casually added, "At least I upgraded." That moment sealed it. This morning she had 47 missed calls from her therapist. Meanwhile, my son Jake came home and chucked his basketball off the balcony. I knew something was wrong, but I also knew better than to walk into his room and ask. Teenage boys have their own ways of handling pain, and mine would have just told me to get lost, so I waited until the next morning. I planned to wake him with a fresh omelet. Only when I knocked, he wasn't in bed. That's when I heard something from the garden. Grunting. I followed the sound to the shed. There he was on the ground, doing push-ups. Sweat poured off his face. He was on number 65 when he finally noticed me standing there. "Dad, I need to talk to you about something." He told me what happened at practice. His ex had given his favorite hoodie to her new boyfriend, Trevor, the captain of the basketball team. When Jake asked for it back, she looked him up and down and said, "It actually fits someone with muscles now." Trevor flexed while wearing it. The whole team laughed. I looked into my son's eyes, expecting to see heartbreak. Instead, I saw something else entirely. Something wild. I'm done being the pathetic fat kid everyone laughs at. I'm going to change everything. At first, I thought maybe this was good. Exercise helps. Maybe this was his way of processing it all. But within 2 weeks, he'd lost 20 pounds. His teacher, Miss Thompson, called to say he was falling asleep during first period. When I asked him, he showed me his alarm history. He was getting up at 4:00 a.m. to run, then hitting the gym at 5:00 a.m. Successful people sacrifice, he said, completely serious. Things escalated fast. One night I caught him doing 1,000 burpees in the backyard. Why? Because he'd eaten a piece of birthday cake at school. When his grandmother came over and made her famous lasagna, Jake sat at the table gripping a Tupperware of dried chicken. She wiped away tears while he shoveled it down. "I can't afford cheap meals," he told her. He looked up at me one night, voice cracking, and said, "Did you know she used to make me walk behind her at school so people wouldn't know we were together? I'm going to become someone she regrets losing." Then came the journal. I hadn't wanted to invade his privacy, but I was scared. One afternoon, I broke my promise and read it. The second page made my stomach drop. My mom knew I was fat and never told me the truth. Jake's mom died when he was 11, from an eating disorder. She would cook massive meals for him and then quietly starve herself. He was the one who found her collapsed on the kitchen floor. Her last words to him were, "You're perfect just the way you are, baby." Now he believed those were lies. That evening, I told him about a therapist a family friend had recommended. "No, Dad, I hate you." He didn't yell it. He just nodded quietly like he knew it was coming. And for weeks, he went to therapy without complaint. Dr. Liam said he was making progress. Jake even started eating breakfast with me sometimes. I thought maybe, just maybe, we were through the worst of it. Then, 6 months later, the police called. Jake had been found in Miller Lake at 5 in the morning. He wasn't trying to die. He was doing Navy SEAL training in 40-degree water. When they pulled him out, his lips were blue, his body hypothermic, and he was still doing laps. In the ambulance, he kept whispering, "I'm not weak anymore. Tell Sarah I'm not weak." He asked the paramedics to check his body fat percentage. He was 119 pounds. He was 5'8". When I got to the hospital, he was asleep. Sarah showed up wearing the hoodie. She brought Trevor. Trevor smirked. "I didn't mean for this to happen. Sarah said I was just being honest about the hoodie." Jake woke up mid-conversation. He saw the hoodie and laughed. But it wasn't normal laughter. It was unhinged. "Of course you're wearing it," he said. "Of course you are." He wouldn't stop. The nurse called for a sedative. Sarah backed out of the room. But even after she left, Jake's heart rate wouldn't stabilize. The doctor pulled me aside. His body was shutting down. They started feeding tubes. Jake kept trying to pull them out. "It's making me fat," he whispered. That night, his heart stopped twice. They brought him back both times. But the damage was done. He woke up once more. "Dad, am I skinny enough now?" I told him he was perfect. That he'd always been perfect. He smiled. "Don't lie to me like Mom did." Jake died at 3:30 a.m. Cardiac arrest, severe malnutrition, hypothermia. I didn't say a word. Not at first, because I knew I had to make Sarah pay. I sat in my car outside the funeral home for 20 minutes, staring at Sarah's Instagram story through eyes blurred with tears. She was wearing Jake's hoodie mascara, smudged just enough to look accidental, posing for a selfie. The caption said, "R.I.P. Jake, you were loved," with 3 broken heart emojis. My hands trembled on the steering wheel as I watched her swipe through filters to find the one that made her grief look prettiest. The parking lot was mostly empty. The service was over. Most people had gone. But Sarah lingered with her friends, all of them taking turns hugging her, like she was the one who'd suffered the loss. She held that hoodie like it was a medal. I saw the dried ketchup stain on the sleeve. From Jake's last meal at home, a burger. One of the few times he let himself enjoy something. That was 3 days before the lake. I got out of my car and walked toward them. Sarah saw me coming and clutched the hoodie tighter. She whispered something, and her friends moved to form a half circle in front of her like a wall. I kept my voice calm. I only asked for the hoodie. Nothing more. Sarah's eyes filled with tears as she pressed it to her face. "It's all I have left of him," she said. "I need something to remember him by." Her friends glared at me like I was heartless. Then Trevor stepped in. Jake's old teammate, now Sarah's shield. "You need to let people grieve how they grieve," he said. "Move on." Behind him, I saw Sarah's expression change. Just for a second. The tears stopped. A little smile crept up on her face. She leaned forward and whispered something I'll never forget. Jake always wanted to look like Trevor anyway. Her words were cold, cruel. I didn't say a thing. I turned around and walked back to my car. But before I got in, I saw her bury her face in Trevor's chest. Back to the show. Coach Miller caught me before I could drive off. He looked guilty, said he needed to tell me something about the hoodie incident, that he should have stepped in when it happened. Then he said something that chilled me. This wasn't the first time I've seen her do this. She has a pattern. I drove home numb. But the next morning, that fog turned into clarity. I couldn't let this go. Jake was already becoming part of her story. Her brand. The first time I saw her selling memorial bracelets was outside the school. A little table. Jake's senior photo taken before it all went wrong. The bracelet said, "In memory of Jake." $15 each. She kept the money. I watched from across the street as students lined up to show their support. She'd even used Jake's last Instagram post without permission, the one of him playing basketball in our driveway. I'd taken that photo. That night, my sister called. She said people were worried about me, that I should consider grief counseling, maybe a support group. I realized Sarah had already started reshaping the narrative. The grieving girlfriend, the unstable dad. That night, I searched Jake's room again. I looked deeper. Behind his desk, wedged between textbooks, I found a notebook I'd never seen. It wasn't quite a diary. It was organized, focused, precise. He documented everything. Every insult, every humiliation, every time Sarah chipped away at him. It went back 8 months. Just 2 weeks into their relationship. November 3rd, she said my laugh was embarrassing in front of her friends. December 18th, made me wait in the car during Emma's party so people wouldn't see us arrive together. January 22nd, called me her practice boyfriend when she thought I couldn't hear. The next morning, Sarah's mom called. She was polite but firm. She understood I was grieving. But Sarah was a teenager. Teenagers say things they don't mean. And with college applications around the corner, this stress wasn't good for anyone. It was a threat, wrapped in sympathy. That afternoon, I created the anonymous account. Not for revenge, for truth. I started posting screenshots, comparing Sarah's tribute posts to the private texts I found on Jake's phone. The contrast was shocking. 2 days later, Trevor's parents invited me over. They looked uneasy. They said they were worried about Sarah, about Trevor. Something didn't feel right, even if they couldn't prove anything. I kept digging. In Jake's backpack, I found more. Sarah had taken his team photo. She'd drawn hearts around Trevor's face. She was using Jake's old AP physics notes, posting them like keepsakes. She was profiting from his death. Then I got a message. Alexandra, Sarah's best friend. She said she was scared of Sarah, that she'd watched her destroy people before, that people always blame the victim afterward. She deleted the message, but I'd already taken a screenshot. My brother came over the following week. He sat in Jake's room and looked at everything I'd gathered. He said I needed to let it go, that Sarah's family was considering legal action after the confrontation at the funeral. But I couldn't stop, not after what I found next. Archived messages between Jake and Sarah. Early ones. She didn't just call him her practice boyfriend behind his back, she told him directly. During the honeymoon stage. She'd been cold from the start. Then I noticed something at a school event. Sarah with a new boy. Another overweight kid. David Chen, Jake's age. She posted gym selfies with him, added captions about helping him transform. The pattern was starting again. At work, I couldn't focus. During a brand transformation meeting, I stared at the presentation and thought of Jake. My boss told me to take some time off. I didn't tell him I was using that time to keep gathering evidence. I spoke to the school counselor, Ms. Price. She listened, but her response was predictable. Sarah was grieving in her own way. Maybe I was projecting. Her daughter was one of Sarah's friends. One weekend, I followed Sarah to the mall. I needed to see. She tried on designer clothes for 2 hours, Jake's hoodie tied around her waist like an accessory. Laughing, taking selfies. The breaking point came from Jake's best friend, Liam. He cracked. Said he'd been holding something in. He showed me screenshots from a group chat. Sarah had shared Jake's vulnerable texts with their friends, laughing at him, mocking him. The messages were from the night before the lake. Jake's grandmother noticed I was unraveling. But instead of trying to stop me, she pulled me close and said she'd seen Sarah laughing at the funeral. Not crying laughing, she said. Actual laughter. That girl has empty eyes. The pattern became clearer with every discovery. Sarah dated boys who were insecure. She built them up, got them to trust her. Then she slowly tore them apart. She kept trophies from each one. Then Nicholas reached out. Her ex from freshman year. He said Jake wasn't her first victim. He'd been in therapy for years after her. Too scared to speak until now. I took screenshots of everything. Her posts, the GoFundMe, the $8,000 she raised, the memorial merchandise she sold through Etsy, sponsored posts from fitness brands capitalizing on her grief. She was making more from Jake's death than he had ever earned at his part-time job. Sarah's mom called again. This time the threats were clear. Stop or face legal consequences. That night Trevor's mom texted me privately. Keep digging, she wrote. Then Liam admitted something else. Sarah had made him deliver cruel messages to Jake. She used him as a weapon. He thought it was harmless drama until Jake was gone. Then Sarah started a grief support group. I watched from my car as she stood at the school entrance, wearing Jake's hoodie like armor, crying on command. She said Jake's obsession with his appearance had destroyed them both. She turned herself into the victim. The students bought it. Jake had written about this in his journal. The playbook. Step 1, isolate the target. Step 2, gaslight them. Step 3, keep a trophy. Even the school janitor noticed. Mr. Rodriguez told me he saw Sarah and Trevor in the gym planning it all. laughing about how they'd humiliate Jake in front of everyone. He hadn't realized what it meant. Now he couldn't forget it. I tried warning David Chen's parents. They brushed me off, said he was finally confident that she was helping him. He'd already lost 30 pounds in 3 weeks. I knew I'd failed another boy. My file of evidence grew. Timelines, screenshots, testimonies, photos of her using Jake's tragedy for college essays, posts about body positivity, all lies. A girl named Melissa messaged the anonymous account. She remembered a boy from middle school, Kevin, who had tried to harm himself after Sarah destroyed his self-esteem. She'd called it being honest. The school covered it up. Sarah kept his Letterman jacket. I kept going, calm, legal, careful. Then Alexandra caught Sarah practicing grief faces in the mirror. She filmed it. Sarah didn't know. Trevor's friend Tyler came forward with messages. Sarah had planned to take Jake's hoodie weeks before the breakup, said it'd be hilarious to see him beg for it back. She planned it all. Her control only worked because people were afraid to speak. But the wall was cracking. Coach Miller reviewed old gym footage. It showed Sarah orchestrating the entire scene with Trevor, setting up teammates to block Jake from leaving. It was a setup. The coach watched in silence. His hands shook. Jake's grandmother offered her savings to help me expose Sarah. She said she'd already lost 2 grandchildren. She couldn't watch more kids be hurt by this girl. I connected with other families. Parents of other boys Sarah had broken. We formed a quiet alliance. We shared everything, monitored her new targets. We didn't threaten. We documented, protected. Sarah couldn't control the truth, not forever. And the truth was going to end her game. Thank you for listening to today's stories. Part 2 will be updated soon. If you enjoyed listening, please like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Also, leave a comment below to share your thoughts on what happened. Take care.